They did it. Just hours before the deadline expired, the Department of Justice moved. James Comey, former FBI Director, one-time guardian of the Bureau's integrity, was indicted, charged with lying to Congress, accused of obstructing an oversight committee. It's the kind of headline that makes Washington stop breathing for a moment. Because this isn't just another case, it's the collision of two eras, the old guard that built the institutions and the new order that's tearing them down to rebuild power. The indictment didn't come quietly. It landed like a precision strike, timed to the minute, filed before midnight just before the statute of limitations sealed it away forever. And at the center of it, a name that's already sending shockwaves through the Capitol, Lindsey Halligan. A former Trump attorney, now a U.S. attorney leading the charge against the man who once investigated her former client. Yeah, you heard that right. The same circles that accused Comey of political bias are now prosecuting him, under an administration that promised to restore justice. Here's the kicker. This wasn't spontaneous. Sources say internal planning had been building for weeks, meetings behind closed doors, legal memos rewritten to fit new interpretations of authority. The order? Prepare the indictment before time runs out. Comey appeared before the court early Tuesday morning. No cameras, no spectacle, just a quiet entry, a firm not guilty, and a storm outside waiting to explode. Let's rewind. Comey's story has always been about contradictions. Once praised for defending independence, later vilified for defying political expectations. His 2020 Senate Judiciary testimony is the root of this entire firestorm. Back then, he told lawmakers that surveillance applications during the 2016 investigation were lawful and properly authorized. Republicans claimed that was false. They said he downplayed internal warnings. They said he lied. For years, nothing happened. DOJ reviews, Inspector General reports, hearings, all criticism, no charges. Until now. Until the same Justice Department, reshaped under Trump's second term, decided the old restraint was weakness. Now it's action. Now it's punishment. The question haunting Washington isn't whether Comey lied. It's why this indictment happened now, and under these people. Because the moment Halligan's name appeared on the paperwork, the narrative shifted from legality to loyalty, from justice served to revenge delivered. And for millions of Americans already losing faith in institutions, this felt like confirmation of what they'd feared all along, that the scales of justice no longer balance, they tilt toward whoever holds the reins. By midday, news outlets were split along predictable lines. Conservative media called it a long-overdue reckoning, accountability at last, they said. Progressives called it a purge, the weaponization of law enforcement. The hashtags trended faster than the facts could settle. Trump loyalists celebrated openly. Clips of his rallies resurfaced. "We'll drain the swamp," he'd said. To his supporters, this was proof he finally had. For the opposition, it was proof democracy had cracked. Inside the DOJ, sources describe a divided atmosphere. Some prosecutors quietly uneasy, others convinced this is history correcting itself. Behind the scenes, career officials are lawyering up, not because they're targets, but because nobody trusts the boundaries anymore. And then there's the money trail. Leaks suggest conservative PACs aligned with Trump World raised millions within hours of the indictment announcement. Accountability has become a campaign slogan. A courtroom turned into a rallying cry. But there's a deeper unease, one that cuts across party lines. What happens when prosecutions start following political tides instead of evidence? When personal loyalty becomes the new definition of law and order? Comey's defense team is already preparing a scorched earth strategy. They're calling the prosecution vindictive and selective. They filed motions to challenge Halligan's appointment, arguing she lacks the independence required by DOJ statute. They've hinted at bringing the case before higher courts, maybe even the Supreme Court if necessary. Trial date, January 5th, 2026. It's symbolic, the first week of an election year. The timing ensures maximum visibility, maximum volatility, because every hearing, every headline will now bleed into the political bloodstream. Democrats say it's orchestrated chaos, designed to dominate news cycles, to drown out policy failures, to ignite tribal loyalty before midterms. Republicans insist it's closure, finally exposing what they call years of deception. But whichever version you believe, one truth remains. This single case has reignited America's oldest wound, whether justice belongs to law or to power. Polls released within 24 hours show a steep drop in public trust in the DOJ. Independents split almost evenly. Half see courage, half see corruption. That's how fragile the balance is.
Legal scholars warn that if the DOJ is perceived as partisan, every future case, from election fraud to national security, will carry a shadow of doubt. Once credibility collapses, even truth sounds like propaganda. Behind the headlines, a quieter battle unfolds, one between institutional survival and political ambition. Veteran DOJ officials fear this is the moment history will remember, the day impartiality died in plain sight, the day prosecution became perception. Inside think tanks, constitutional experts debate a grim question. Can a democracy function when its law enforcers are seen as extensions of one man's will? No easy answer. Just echoes from darker chapters. Nixon's enemies list, Hoover's secret files, McCarthy's blacklists. Different decades, same sickness. And yet something feels different this time. Back then, institutions still fought back. Today, they're exhausted. Public confidence is drained. The justice system, once feared, now feels negotiable. The symbolism is brutal. The man who once defended the Bureau's integrity now stands accused by the very system he helped define. It's poetic, in the cruelest possible way. And in the echo of that irony, you can hear the country asking itself, if Comey can fall, who's safe? But the story doesn't end here, because even as the indictment dominates headlines, the machinery behind it keeps moving. Sources suggest the DOJ may be preparing additional review inquiries, possibly targeting others linked to the original Russia probe. Names are whispered, former deputies, senior aides, even journalists who published leaked memos. If true, this is bigger than Comey. It's the start of a purge dressed as justice.
Lawmakers warn of constitutional escalation. Translation, subpoenas, hearings, retaliations. The judiciary committees are already sharpening questions. What was the legal basis? Who authorized Halligan's appointment? Were there communications with the White House? Leaks indicate internal memos referencing executive priority review. No one knows what it means, but everyone assumes the same thing. Direct influence. And the silence from the White House, deafening. No statements, no denials, just a carefully maintained distance, as if letting the fire spread benefits them more than putting it out. Political consultants call it strategic. Let the opposition exhaust itself defending a man half the country already distrusts. Cynical? Absolutely. Effective? Probably. But here's the line nobody crosses publicly. If this prosecution is politically motivated, it's a signal. The DOJ is no longer a shield, it's a weapon. And once that weapon's drawn, it doesn't go back into its holster easily. Comey's defense knows it, Congress knows it, the public feels it, and the clock is already ticking toward a trial that could redefine the meaning of justice in America. But what happens next if this case actually goes forward? What if it doesn't collapse, but sets a precedent? That's where the real danger begins, because the outcome won't just decide one man's fate. It could redraw the boundaries of power for every president, every prosecutor, every citizen who ever dares to speak against authority. What happens if this case actually moves forward? If Comey stands trial before cameras and the DOJ defends its own credibility in the same courtroom it commands? That's not just a trial. That's a stress test of democracy itself.
Let's talk about what this indictment really represents. It's not just the fall of one official, it's the re-engineering of power inside the justice system. For decades, the DOJ built itself on distance. No politics, no loyalty tests, no presidential fingerprints. Now, that wall looks paper thin. When a former FBI director can be charged by an attorney who once defended the sitting president, the idea of separation collapses. You can feel the tremor across the branches of government. Lawmakers are already talking about rewriting DOJ oversight laws. Judges whisper about constitutional red lines being crossed. Even career prosecutors, the ones who quietly keep the system running, are asking whether they're next. History has warned us about this moment. When Nixon tried to turn the Justice Department into a personal weapon, it ended in resignation. When Hoover ran the FBI as an empire, Congress stripped its powers. Each time, reform followed scandal. But this time, the scandal is the reform. The weaponization isn't denied, it's celebrated. Behind closed doors, the strategy is clear. For Trump's allies, the goal isn't just to punish Comey. It's to prove that the deep state myth was real all along. To make the public believe the system was corrupt, so any blow against it feels righteous. And for Democrats, defending Comey has become more than loyalty. It's survival. If they lose this narrative, they lose the moral high ground on every future investigation. So the talking points are ready. Republicans, accountability delayed is not accountability denied. Democrats, the rule of law has been hijacked.
Both sides are technically correct. Both sides are politically doomed. Because once the public sees justice as partisan, it stops believing in justice at all. Turn on any network. It's not coverage anymore, it's trench warfare. Fox News airs countdown clocks to the trial. MSNBC hosts frame it as an American purge. Podcasts, YouTube shows, fringe outlets, all picking their side, selling outrage in high definition. But the audience isn't cheering, it's exhausted. Trust in every institution, media, government, law, has eroded to its lowest level in decades. Americans aren't asking who's right anymore, they're asking who's left to believe. And that's the true casualty of this story: faith. Once public trust dies, even truth loses its power. Investigations spawn counter-investigations. Whistleblowers emerge claiming selective prosecutions, political briefings, orders whispered through intermediaries. Leaks suggest internal dissent inside the DOJ. A memo surfaces, anonymous but credible, warning of irreparable reputational damage. Congress prepares hearings that could expose internal communications between Halligan's office and White House counsel. Subpoenas are drafted, former officials are lawyering up, and quietly, legal scholars warn this could set a precedent where every administration prosecutes the last. That's the nightmare scenario: government as a loop of vengeance, justice as a revolving door of payback. Let's slow it down for a second. Strip away the politics. What's happening here is psychological. America's justice system was built on perception as much as law. If people believe it's fair, it works. If they stop believing, it collapses, even if the paperwork still stands.
Comey's indictment hits that nerve. He was the face of institutional confidence. Now he's the symbol of institutional decay. To Trump supporters, that's poetic justice. To his critics, it's state intimidation. Either way, the symbol outweighs the man. Foreign governments are watching this case more closely than any domestic scandal. Allies in Europe privately describe it as judicial cannibalism. Authoritarian regimes call it proof that democracy is a facade. When the world's oldest constitutional republic starts prosecuting its former intelligence chief for political reasons, the message travels fast. No institution is sacred. And that perception has consequences. Investor confidence dips, intelligence cooperation stalls, foreign ministries hesitate to share sensitive data with Washington. They don't know who will be in charge next or which files might end up in court. That's the hidden cost. The erosion of credibility abroad mirrors the erosion of trust at home. For Comey, the ordeal is personal. He's avoided interviews, staying off the radar, communicating only through his legal team. Those who know him say he's calm but disillusioned. The man who once defended institutions now finds himself defending against them. For DOJ insiders, morale fractures. Some consider resigning. Others double down, convinced they're protecting justice by enforcing it. The divide isn't ideological anymore. It's existential. When half the people inside a system stop believing in it, the collapse isn't a question of if, it's when.
You can almost draw a straight line through American history, from Watergate to Iran-Contra, to the Clinton investigations, to the Mueller probe, and now to this. Each crisis left a scar. Each scar became the foundation for the next. But this one feels different because it's symmetrical. Both sides now agree the system is corrupt. They just disagree who corrupted it first. That's how democracies slide, not through coups, but through exhaustion. When everyone stops defending the rules because they think the other side already broke them. So what happens next? 3 roads branch from here. None of them lead to peace. 1. The trial proceeds. Comey takes the stand. Evidence, testimony, verdict. If convicted, the administration cements control. If acquitted, it detonates credibility. Either way, history splits into before and after. 2. The case collapses. Judges ruled a prosecution unlawful, citing conflict of interest. Trump's allies cry conspiracy. DOJ fractures internally. Congress retaliates with reform bills that may gut prosecutorial independence for a generation. 3. A political settlement, a plea, a pardon, or a quiet dismissal under national interest. That path saves headlines, but destroys accountability forever. Pick any outcome. They all end with fewer people believing in the system than before. This is bigger than Trump or Comey. It's about what happens when power stops fearing accountability and starts imitating it. When justice becomes a slogan used to settle personal scores. When every courtroom becomes a campaign stage. That's not democracy dying overnight. That's democracy bleeding out in daylight while everyone argues about who fired the shot.
You can't legislate trust. You can't indict your way to legitimacy. Once people think every verdict has a political sponsor, no judge, no jury, no constitution can save the illusion of fairness. And yet, here we are, a nation addicted to outrage, rebuilding identity from court filings. As Comey prepares for trial, Washington moves with forced calm. Politicians rehearse outrage for upcoming hearings. Analysts draft opinion pieces they could publish blindfolded. The cycle continues, noise without resolution. But underneath, there's a different kind of silence. The silence before a precedent locks in place. Because when one administration proves it can prosecute its critics and survive the backlash, every future leader learns the same lesson. You can do it too. And that's how empires of law turn into systems of loyalty. Not with a revolution, with repetition. So ask yourself, what happens when the rule of law becomes a weapon of politics? When guilt or innocence matters less than which flag you wave? When the Justice Department itself becomes the battlefield? This isn't fiction. This is happening. Line by line, motion by motion, leak by leak. Maybe Comey is guilty. Maybe he's not. But the deeper truth is that America's justice system is now on trial alongside him. And when the verdict comes, whatever it is, the question won't be, what did Comey do? It'll be, what did we allow the system to become? So stay alert, because this isn't just a story about one man. It's the mirror held up to a nation that swore justice was blind and just realized it's been watching all along.